Hi, in this video we're going to look at variants in Figma. So jumping back into our file, I have created a button. So we've got some text and a rectangle. I'm just going to give this a better colour. Better, subjective, might be worse. Okay, so there's our button. I'm going to create this button into a component. What I'm going to do just before I create this into a component, so it's button. So this is my button, this is my /show active, because it's the active state, and it's the large button. So I'm going to separate those with /, and you'll see why later. So now I'm going to click on the button, create it as a component. I'm going to alt click and drag out another instance. I am going to detach that, and I want to put this as my disabled. So my button, it's disabled, it's large. Let's just change the color. So let's change that, so disabled button. I'll just grey that out. Let me just drag this out again while I'm here. And let's just do this as hover. If I can spell hover, and the hover state will be, I need to stop double clicking, so let's do hover state and let's just make it a bit darker. Okay, great. So I'm going to select both of these buttons, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to create them as multiple components, so they're each a component. I'm going to select all of my buttons, and on the right hand side, as you can see, there is a button combine as variants. So I'm going to click that. Now all of these buttons will be linked, and we've got some extra properties on the right hand side. So if I click here, they're not named yet. So if I'm going to click on these options or the edit property, so where I've got active, disabled and hover, these are my button states. On the next one, for large, this is my button sizes. So now when I click off, if I go to the assets panel, I've got my local components, I've got my button, I click out, and just to show you what the variants are. So on the right hand side, we've got states, we've got sizes on this button. So if I click on active, I want it to be disabled and it's large. If I want it to be the hover state, click on the drop down and it will cycle through all of these different variations of the button that I've done. And it makes it really, really easy to, I guess, maintain your buttons, maintain your components and all these variants that you have in one place. So now if I click back into here, I'm going to add another variant. So this is the, let's go back to the layers. So this is my active, and let's just change, you can change it in the layers panel here, or you can click here and you can change what it's going to be. So I want this to be my active state but small. So if I drag this in a little bit, if I adjust the text, definitely not perfect, but there we go. So that is my active small button. Let's create another variation. So this is going to be my small, what else do we have? My disabled button. So let's go in here. Let's do disabled. Let's double click here. Let's change the color so it matches. Okay. Let's duplicate it again. This is going to be the small hover state. Click on here, let's just update the color. Great. These are not the these are the world's worst buttons, but it's going to demonstrate variants for you. So now when I'm clicking back onto the button, so I now have my button, the states, so I've got active, disabled, hover, I've got large, and now I've got the small variations. So I can go through the small active, disabled and hover states. So hopefully this illustrates how you can use variants. It's quite powerful. You can add lots of different properties within these components and within these variants, and you can get really creative. Something else to note, so when I click on my button up here with all the variants, if you want to manage the properties here, you can. You've obviously got the options here for the ones that I've added. If you want to add any new ones, so properties, you can click on the plus button here. You can add a new variant. Let's give it a name, so border. Do the default value is on. Let's create that property, so it adds the property to our variant in the properties panels here. So if I click here, if I add a new button, so the border is listed as on. If I give this as an example, if I give it a stroke just to this button here, let's go back up and I'll just quickly click on all these other variations, and if I set the border to being off, now if I go to my button, so if I make sure we're on my small hover, then I will have the ability, I don't know if you can see it, you have the ability to turn the border on and off as a new property. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.